Hello humans, Master DinnerFlax here, bringing you low quality content you deserve, and today I'll be going over a Darklord kind of linky deck, I guess I'll say it as. And basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to try Darklords because I think the way they work is actually really cool. The issue with the deck is that it has like no follow-ups to a hand trap. It's very fragile to a lot of hand traps, and it's very, very bricky. So what I decided to do is I would just make a version that didn't focus on playing the Darklords, instead use them as an engine to facilitate some link plays and some kind of stunnier boards. So yeah, let's get into it. We got Yugioh, the best one. It's literally the only new one I'm playing. And it's one of the only two monsters I'm playing of the Darklords because, to be totally honest, most of the Darklords are just terrible outside of this one and Superbia. So I decided, no, I'm just not going to play these. Like, I know a lot of people like Nastin and other stuff, but they're all, like, heavy minuses. They don't really do anything besides, like, float your spells and traps. But Yugioh already does that, and this one always lets you break even. So yeah, 3 of her. 3 Sky Blaster. This is really good for the Yugioh Superbia into Contact combo. But itself, it is a Link 2 without any setup, which is usually like Wee Witch if you got nothing else. But if you even have like an instant fusion monster up, you can always just activate it, and it just gets you a bunch of materials for a link. Sorry, Yugioh is very good in this stack, and I use it a lot, so yeah. 3 of this. 2 Lilith. The reason I'm doing this is because I've found a new love for Reckless Greed. Reckless Greed is actually insane with Nightmare Griffin, because in the span of 3 draw phases that you're going to skip, you are going to get 7 draws with Griffin. So what you do is you activate 2 Reckless Greeds, which is the only time you activate Reckless Greed unless your opponent tries to pop it. And then afterwards, when you go for Griffin, you recycle it, toss a card, get a draw, and then you'll have another Reckless Greed online for an extra 2 draws. Just, yeah, you're tossing a card, but it doesn't matter. Like, you've seen so many cards, you've fixed your hand so much, like, it totally doesn't matter. So, 2 Lilith to help get to Reckless Greed. I also play Impermanence, which I don't know what it is, but I don't feel that card is actually that strong. It's a little bit better than Valor, but if you can search Valor, you should absolutely just be playing Valor over it. But you can search traps with this deck, so Impermanence makes sense. 2 Superbia, the only other Darklord. It's just free extra body with Contact and an extra discard outlet for Yugioh. 1 Grinder Golem, this card is nuts. Even the TCG combo is still fairly good. Yeah, that's about it. 3 DD Crows, this is gonna seem a little weird, but I am playing Allure of Darkness at 2, which I really want to go back to 3, but I had to find space. So like, DD Crow, not only is it a hand trap that's almost as good as Ghost Spell, but it is an allure target as well, and there's like a 70% range where DD Crow and Ghost Spell hit the same thing, while there's a 30%, there's like a 25% 25 range where Ghost Spell hits that Crow doesn't, and then there's like a 5 range where Crow hits that Bell doesn't. So Bell hits more, but what DD Crow hits, it usually hits a little more effective on more cards. Not all of them, like Soul Charge and Rematch, Ghost Spell is better, but you can still use it. It's still almost as good as Bell, but the thing that keeps it over Bell is Allure of Darkness in here, so that's why I'm playing 3 of that. And then 3 Ash Blossom, the best hand trap in the game, outside of Droll, but I was really hoping Droll would get banned, but no. We still have to deal with Trickstar hand loops because they think it's okay. 3 Banishment, just thin your deck. 3 of this. One of them would have been a Reborn, but I'd rather have the extra Darklord name for Yugioh, because since I'm not playing that many Darklord monsters, a lot of times you're actually just tossing the spells and traps, which is fine, because you recycle them anyway with Yugioh, so it doesn't really matter. 2 Allure, I want to play 3 of this, but I just can't find the room, and I don't feel very confident with only 14 Darks in the deck, but you just gotta draw all your shit. 2 Instant Fusion. This card is a 3rd and 4th copy of Called by the Grave in this deck because of a Millenniumized Restrict. If your deck doesn't need the extra Monster Zone immediately, kind of like Invoked or trying to think of the other deck, but like this deck's another example. If you don't need that main Monster Zone to point down for like Summon Sork or stuff like that, Millenniumize is actually fantastic. Millenniumize, I'll explain it when we get to there. 2 Called by the Grave, this card should have been banned. When you put it at 2, you do the same thing that Maxi does, where it's much more sacky to see. And if they put it to 1, I'm going to actually be furious. It means they didn't learn anything from Maxi. 2 Scapegoat. It at 2 has actually had a lot more impact. You see it a lot less in games. But at the same time, it kind of makes it sackier. But you, no matter what, you should always, if you're going against a stun deck, you should always play around the Scapegoat. But with it at 2, it means they're not always going to see it, and that means you can win games without seeing it, without them seeing it. So that's all right, I guess. 1 Upstart. This is what I placed the 3rd Allure for. I guess it makes sense because you don't actually have that many Darks, and some of the Darks you do have, you want to keep. Yeah, that's about it. And Soul Charge. As long as this card is legal, I will probably be playing it in literally everything. This card shouldn't be legal. It's another card they missed on the list. Card's dumb. It shouldn't be allowed. For the traps, we got Triple Reckless. Just try to draw into all your shit. You usually don't activate it until they target it for removal. Or because if they target it for removal, you're getting a plus out of it. Because they're paying a card. Or if it's like Phoenix, they're kind of paying 2 cards to pop it. And you just get 2 draws. Sure, it's a -1, because the whole concept with Reckless Greed is that you are getting 2 cards at the cost of losing 2 draw phases, which is a break even. However, you're activating a card to do it, so it's a -1. So you don't want to activate it unless you have 2, because then you're paying 2 cards to see 4 cards to skip 2 draw phases, which is a break even. And if for some reason you see 3, it's a +1, but you're seeing 6 cards. If you are seeing 6 cards, it is nearly impossible to lose unless your opponent has like Soul Charge, Scapegoat, crap like that. It's very, very hard to get a brand new hand and lose. Especially when you're drawing hand traps on your opponent's turn. So yeah, 3 impermanents. The only reason I'm playing this is probably because of Lilith. And there's like no other dark hand trap that's good right now. Winter Cherries is a good card, but it's only good when a format is defined in a side deck or sometimes like an anti-meta main deck. Because if it's not either of those things, it loses to everything. It literally becomes an 1800 defense normal monster that's a tuner, and I'm not interested in that. So 3 impermanents, and then 1 Darklord trap. I think it's the best one, even though the other one takes, and this is kind of a link deck. Just having actual destruction on your side is really good. Of course, it loses to Cerberus, but in theory, your hand traps should kind of balance that out from like your opponent just linking the hell out of you. So for the extra deck, 2 Link Spiders. I'm guessing one of these could probably be a Link Karibo, but with Phantom Skyblaster, the tokens are not level 1. So that was the theory behind Link Spider, but there could probably be 2 Link Karibos and it'd be fine. But you still need a Link Spider for Skyblaster. Then we got Link Karibo, Wee Witch, Shack for Grinder Golem, Cerberus for Grinder Golem, Phoenix because it's good, Unicorn. Very, very strong. Griffin. This is probably my favorite Link nowadays with Reckless Greed because if you've resolved 2 Reckless Greed, and you make a link play into him resetting it, you toss a card to get a card, so it's a 1-for-1, and you go +1 from the draw. Like, you're usually using tokens to make him, so the minus isn't that powerful, isn't that effective against you. But then you go +1 for the Reckless Greed, but you're also resetting your Reckless Greed to see another 2 cards. And it means if you've seen 2 Reckless Greed to make a Griffin, you are drawing 7 cards and tossing 1, which fixes your hand infinitely. Like, it's insane. It means you don't even need to see the 3rd Reckless Greed to have like resolve 3 Reckless Greed. It's very, very good. Firewall Dragon, very, very, very strong. It's only, I usually only summon it though when I'm really winning, but it's still a good card. It recycles hand traps mainly in this deck. That's about all it does, but it's cool. Skull Dread, probably the most made link in the deck. It's really important, so yeah, gotta play this. Portal Load I've never made, and you could probably cut this. I don't think there's even an application where I'd want to make this, but it's there. Number 38, I was originally playing 3 Bigfoot in this deck, just because literally a Blue Eyes that if it is tossed, you just pop a card. But it was not very consistent, and it wasn't very good. It was only good when I was Nightmare spamming, but that wasn't happening every game. And it especially wasn't happening if I was drawing Bigfoot, because that means I wasn't drawing an actual play. But you can still use the 2 Superbia, which you can see fairly quickly if you got a certain hand. But I don't know. You can usually also just make a Soul Charge play with Grinder Golem when you have Superbia engraved. And I guess that also is pretty good. And Millennium Eyes, this is like the extra copies of Called by the Grave against Ash Blossom. Because Ash Blossom on your Eggshell is devastating if you don't have the contact. Because you could actually just lose there immediately. So I felt like having this in the extra deck with Instant Fusion was going to be helpful for that. And we got Thousand Eyes Restrict just for removal. Side deck, doesn't matter. So yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and if you got any ideas, I'll let you know. And I'm going to see if I can get some actual replays for this deck, because I know a lot of people like me when I do replays, but when it comes to like decks like Lair or anything anti-meta, I'm going to put this out there right now, I do not like replays for stun decks. And yeah, this is kind of a stunnier Darklord list, but it does combo, and I do want to show you some interactions with the deck. But like when it comes to like Lair Darkness, decks like that, I don't like making replays for. But if you want replays, remember you can join the Discord and ask me directly for them, and I'll see what I can get. So yep, that's about it. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master DinnerFlax will take your soul.